And it truly will be the mother of all talk shows tonight. We have as our guest the doyen of all investigative reporting in the United States, the one and only Max Blumenthal, and the peerless military analyst Scott Ritter, who's in a bit of hot water in certain quarters, I've noticed over the last couple of days. Well, we'll hear from the man himself at 8:45 towards the end of the show. I mentioned that for a reason, which I will explain later. That's what he said, you know. He said that he never had Mr. Goldberg of the virulently anti-Trump administration Atlantic magazine. He never had that number on his phone. Well, how can he have been on your signal group? Asked the journalists who've suddenly all sparked into investigative life now that Donald Trump is the president rather than Joe Biden. I don't know, said Mike Waltz. It must have just got sucked in. It reminds me of Groucho Marx's excuse when found with his secretary in bed. He said, "Who are you going to believe, me or the evidence of your own eyes?" Well, the evidence of our own eyes on the signal group of the Yemeni bomb squad is a very unattractive sight indeed. Indeed, it proves, as I was just saying with my good friend Judge Napolitano on his show earlier today, that although everything changes, everything remains the same. Meet the new boss just the same as the old boss, because the signal group in question and the now all revealed signal messages from luminaries like the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, are exactly the same: exultant. Yo, bro, USA, we done it, guys. Exactly the same exaltation as that of Hillary Clinton on watching the video of President Gaddafi of Libya being brutally sodomized by an iron bar, tortured and then murdered on camera. We came, we saw, he died, she said, and then she laughed. Oh, how she laughed, and what demonic laughter. Nowadays, the laughter is noted by emojis, I think the young people call them. Well, the emojis were all out there, from clenched fists to US flags to people weeping with laughter, tears coming out of both eyes. That was all on view on these ugly, pornographic signal messages that we now, I think, have seen most of. They exulted that they had successfully brought down an entire block of flats, an admission of a war crime. It is a war crime in breach of international law, in breach of the Geneva Conventions, to kill a large number of civilians in order to kill one targeted individual. And to make it even more ugly, the targeted individual wasn't even there. It always seemed slightly unlikely to me when I read in the messages that the top missile guy of Ansar Allah, they didn't even know his name. If they knew it, they certainly couldn't spell it. They wouldn't give it. The top missile guy is in the building, they said, excitedly, watching it in real time. He's gone in to visit his girlfriend. It struck me as unlikely that one of the top commanders of Ansar Allah, a deeply religious fighting group, would have a girlfriend that he called upon, but you can never tell. But what we can say is that no top missile guy was killed. A girlfriend might have been. All of our neighbors certainly were. A large number of Yemenis in the poorest country in the world were massacred pointlessly for no purpose at all. by a group of the most powerful people in America, conducting it all on their telephones in real time. It's not a pretty sight. Neither is the aftermath. My comrade Pepe Escobar actually conducted an interview from the ruins just hours, maybe minutes, after the bombing raid had happened. Certainly the only English-speaking journalist so to do. That's why his report has been seen absolutely nowhere except on alternative media, because he demonstrated without any fear of contradiction that the building was a residential tower block and that it was destroyed by J.D. Vance, by Pete Hegseth, and by Tulsi Gabbard, Mike Waltz, and all the other creeps, freaks that were on that signal group. A large number of people were killed. Who cares how many? Who cares about their names? Who cares how many women, how many children were involved? Certainly nobody on the signal group give a damn about it. But as His Honour, George Napolitano, asked me today, did I think that America was safer as a result of this act of mass murder conducted by signal on telephones? I mean, it's a no-brainer. At the very least, any surviving husband, any surviving eldest son, any surviving son at all, maybe daughter at all, of the people mercilessly murdered for nothing by top American officials will be determined to get their revenge. Now, luckily, perhaps for you, most of them will never get as far as doing so. But some of them, maybe even just one of them, might be able to avenge his dead father, his dead mother, his dead siblings. Is America safer as a result of the joking and joshing and murdering on that signal group? Well, if you believe that, I've got a bridge here in London I could sell you going cheap. In truth, the world has gotten more and more and more dangerous, and it has made no difference at all that it's no longer Joe Biden's auto pen that is signing the executive orders for murder. It is Donald Trump, the peace candidate. It is Tulsi Gabbard, who opposed the Biden administration's bombing attacks on Yemen, only to exult in her own bombing attacks on Yemen on signal this week. It is Donald Trump, the peace candidate, who is responsible for the renewed genocidal onslaught thousands of miles away on the Mediterranean in the Gaza Strip, where in the last week, well over 1,000 people have been murdered in cold blood in their tents. Yes, in their tents. What was it they used to say about the $10,000 missile destroying someone in a $20 tent? Well, they're much more than $20,000, but the tents are just as cheap as they ever were, and just as easy to murder a child within. They set a record in the last week, and don't believe me, this is straight from Haaretz, the newspaper of record in Israel. This is the Israeli press speaking. Israel set a child-killing record yesterday, said the editorial column of Haaretz. It killed 300 children in 51 minutes. Just think about that. Not since the charnel houses, the slaughterhouses of Birkenau, of Belsen, of Auschwitz, have 300 children been murdered in 51 minutes. In Auschwitz, they were Jewish children, almost certainly by the later part of the war. In Gaza, the executioners call themselves the Jewish state. They say they're acting on behalf of all Jews. They say they are the state of the Jews. Even though hundreds of thousands of Jews all over the world, including inside Israel, say, not in my name. You are not murdering these children in my name. Some of the bravest people on the planet are now being kicked out of American universities to the cheers of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's supposed to be looking after America's health, but is instead academically executing students, including Jewish students at Columbia University, who've been protesting against this genocide. In fact, in a truly bizarre statement earlier today, Kennedy said, we need an investigation into the declining number of Jews attending Columbia University. Do you want to know the percentage of Jewish students at Columbia University? It's 23.5%. Jews are 2% of America. At the University of Columbia, they're more than 23%, and that's up on previous years when it was 21 and 22%. But how many, what percentage, Mr. Kennedy, must there be of Jewish students at Columbia University before it will satisfy you? 50%? 75%? And what about those Jewish students who are protesting against your maniacally beloved Israel? Are they not the right kind of Jews? You going to kick them out because they don't fit your narrative? America has gone mad. And when Judge Napolitano asked me today, why are we doing all this for a single tiny country of 7 million people, most of them immigrants from Europe and North America? Why are we doing all this? Bending our entire shape of our society, disfiguring the face of our society. Why are we doing it? Answer came there none for me, for I have no answer to that. And the dogs of war are out in the media. The narrative has reached fever pitch. The B-52s, 7 of them, have arrived in Diego Garcia, where they're parked on the runway within bombing distance, including nuclear bombing distance, of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Incidentally, the Americans have just opened a new base with nuclear-capable range of China in the Philippines. China's very angry about it. China may even be prepared to do something about it. But ask yourself this: what would the United States do if China opened a military base in a country within bombing range of the United States and began to move nuclear-capable bombers and weapon systems onto it? But the vultures are circling around Iran. Iran plainly believes it is about to be attacked. There are some, Scott Ritter amongst them, he's our guest later, we'll be asking him why, believe that Iran should capitulate. But from what I can see, capitulation is the last thing on Iran's mind. For 2 reasons. First of all, they regard it as beneath their national and Islamic dignity to capitulate to Donald Trump, the murderer of their great national hero, General Haj Soleimani, but mainly because they believe that having capitulated on their nuclear program, to which they have every legal entitlement under all treaties signed by them and in existence in the world, the demands will not stop coming, that a blackmailer never stops with the first payment and always comes back for more. As Professor Said Mohammed Marandi put it earlier today in reply to Scott, to capitulate on this would be to live forever before the blackmailer's sword, and that we will not do. And for what it's worth, though none of us can be sure one way or the other, I believe that Iran will not capitulate, and that therefore a state of war will exist between the United States and, whether they admit it or not, their allies and Iran. The United States will be flying through the air of its satrapies and principalities in the Persian Gulf. It will be using the water of the principalities of the Persian Gulf. It will be, in many cases, certainly in the case of Qatar, using the military bases that the United States has there in order to launch what Scott believes may be a dirty bomb nuclear attack against Iran. If that happens, all bets are off, all calculations null and void. I have adumbrated many times before exactly what I believe Iran will do in response, up to and including the total destruction of Israel by ballistic missile attack, armed with who knows what munitions, that the oil and gas installations and infrastructure of all of America's allies in the Persian Gulf will lie in ruins, a flaming ruin within 60 minutes of an American attack, and the Straits of Hormuz will be effectively permanently closed to oil and other traffic going through the narrow straits, entirely controlled by the Islamic Republic of Iran. You don't have to be an economist to work out what the impact of that will be. We're talking petrol at $500 a gallon, if you can get it. We're talking factory closures. We're talking economic wreckage. Across the Western world, we're talking not recession, but depression. All for what? All for Israel. Because that's the only conceivable reason why Donald Trump could have launched the maniacal bomb attack on civilian targets in Yemen, and it's the only conceivable reason why he would do so against Iran. Certainly, it's not putting America first. It's putting America last. We'll hear first off from the one and only Max Blumenthal right after this short break. Stay tuned.